With every new birth, society makes a promise that the child will grow up strong, experience many things, and eventually find love, through which they'll establish the foundations of the remainder of their lives. These cultural conventions don't often come to bear. Even the smallest defect can force people into the margins of society, where you don't grow up strong, you grow up resilient. Where you don't experience life, it happens to you. And where love is a fool's errand. It's because of that foolish love that I never liked love stories, or at least I didn't get them. And although I loved anime, there was a category of it I always avoided, which was shoujo anime, because it was largely marketed towards girls and its themes are largely romantic. For most of my life, watching romantic programming was like walking by a playground or seeing a baby animal. It was innocent, quaint, almost whimsical, regardless of my age or the age of the characters I was viewing. I was more of the mind of shonen. Friendship above everything else was something that I wanted to have in my life, but it was only recently that I learned the flaw of shonen. People grow up, people change, and people go away. It isn't likely that you'll keep every friend you make unless you and everyone around you is standing still. If you're lucky, you'll have a few good ones, but in reality, life is, for many, often spent alone. So I decided to test myself, to open myself up to something I pushed away. And I asked myself, what kind of love do I want that would last a lifetime? And then, no other love truly came to mind other than that of Usagi Tsukino, otherwise known as Sailor Moon. I've seen plenty of love stories. Their ubiquity is undeniable. Even from the East, there are anime stories like Card Captors, Fruit Baskets, and seinen movies like 5 centimeters per second and Garden of Words. But their depictions of love never moved me. Yet when I think about a love that I could view as real, I think about Sailor Moon because she displayed an aspect of love that isn't often duplicated or seen. Long-suffering. One of the hallmarks of any epic romance is overcoming some great trial to find love. And of those tales, Sailor Moon, despite how much of an annoying crybaby she can be, seems to do this while taking everything the most personally and with the greatest emotion. Long-suffering is to endure great injury or trial with patience for some extended period. In Sailor Moon, we see Usagi take on this burden time and again in the name of love and justice. Her other half, Mamoru, is a love that traversed time and space with her, and in 4 principal times in the Sailor Moon lore, Usagi was forced to live life without him in fear and in pain, found in the story of Mamoru's death, manipulation, fear, and defeat. Now, although the 90s anime of Sailor Moon is more ubiquitous, and in fact the series that established Sailor Moon's presence in popular media as well as her image as a romantic icon, as it is the longest series of Sailor Moon, giving it more time to flesh out the stories and character arcs, the Sailor Moon Crystal series does well to maintain Sailor Moon's sense of duty, confliction, and passion with some interesting parallels to the 90s anime, making it appropriate to draw from both to understand Usagi's long suffering. Now, in terms of Usagi's suffering for love, we see it first chronologically before the story of Sailor Moon begins. In a past life, Mamoru and Usagi were Prince Endymion and the Moon Princess Serenity. Having fallen in love, the two were forced to steal away from their respective kingdoms on Earth and on the Moon to visit each other. When war began, over the control of Earth, Princess Serenity was racked with fear and despair over the chance that the prince would lose his life in battle, the reality of which ultimately drove her to end her life. Again, and because the first arc of Sailor Moon was written to be the conclusion of that battle, Sailor Moon experiences very similar circumstances as her past life. But by chance, she and Mamoru, or Tuxedo Mask, survive. Later on in the 90s anime, Mamoru breaks up with Usagi because a mysterious voice leads him to believe that the world will end if they were to stay together.
I wanted to apologize. I was so happy to see you that I didn't even notice that you were in a bad mood.
No, that's not it.
What?
I just don't have the same feelings for you anymore.
Why don't I believe you?
Why should my whole life be guided by what happened to us in the past?
I'm sorry, Darian. I guess we weren't meant to be together after all. I guess I won't be able to invite Darian to dinner now.
Here we see a very dramatic depiction of Usagi's despair and fear for a love that she wasn't prepared to lose. Although the story wasn't canon to the manga, it has parallels to it and the Sailor Moon Crystal series, where when the Dead Moon Circus threatened the Earth, Mamoru places distance between himself and Usagi, as he wants to save her from the burden of knowing about his illness, caused by his mystical connection to the Earth and the magic that guards it, as it was being corrupted by the Dead Moon.
Sorry, didn't mean to barge in so suddenly. Bye, sleep well.
What's wrong with me? With my body burden on you?
And be sure to eat, okay? Okay, bye! He promised me he'd eat and take care of himself. However, he didn't look very good. Are you gonna go see him? Not today. I'm scared if I try, he'll reject me again.
Here, Usagi endures confusion and hurt for her love, and wishes for things to change, not knowing the cause or solution. Finally, in the last arc of Sailor Moon, Mamoru leaves Usagi to study abroad. Throughout this arc, we see Usagi deal with the task of surviving without him, missing and longing for him, suffering in silence while finding the courage to fight the forces attacking the planet without him, refusing both the happiness she could have and potential new loves, during a time where she didn't even hear from Mamoru. Towards the end of the series, she learns that Mamoru was actually defeated by her newest enemy, which is why she didn't hear from him. In the manga, and in the new Sailor Moon Cosmos movies from the Crystal series, like in the first arc, she is forced to battle her love again after being corrupted and controlled. Yet this time, she finds the courage to soldier forth with the task that was given to her, despite her despair and deep pain. In these ways, we see Usagi's long suffering in love, enduring hardship, rejection, despair, confusion, and the pain that comes with the hope for a better tomorrow that is yet to arrive. In fact, it is this very same love that she often extends to her dearest friends and family as she risks herself for them and the world. For not until her final enemy is defeated does Usagi's suffering truly end, when she gets her deepest desire, peace and happiness for her loved ones. I've never seen true love up close before. However, Sailor Moon's was a love that endured multiple trials, and Usagi took everything personally. Every slight pained her heart, every loss, every regret, every rejection. But she endured all of this for a chance. It is perhaps normal to see love face maybe one trial, an illness, a miscommunication, but I think what's different about Usagi is that her love was a millennia long. She knew it existed before she could even remember. It materialized before her, and then time and again, it was wrestled from her grasp. And through it all, we see her get stronger, not to lose out to despair as in her former days, not to give in, but through years of tears to press on and continue to hope and to fight for it, even when the battle seems lost. That's what I imagine true love is. A love like Usagi's, who suffered long for her love and her loved ones. Now, with the world the way that it is, who would bet on its existence? The average marriage being shy even of a decade. But if I were to ever take a chance on it, there's something that I'm sure it must have. It must be patient, and it must have the strength to suffer long, to justify itself through the trials of an entire lifetime, in the name of love, like Sailor Moon.